welcome to Come Home. I'm Jen Mallan, and it's so great to be together today. Listen, you are going to love my guest. Her name is Naomi Nussbaum. I love finding hidden treasures, and the organization that she works with is one of those things. They help terror victims. They help those who have become orphans overnight because of terrorist attacks. They help people that have been traumatized and re-traumatized. And this ministry has been around since 2001. They bless with financial aid, with retreats, with Purim packages, with so many blessings, but most of all, community, family, and support. You're going to want to know about them and connect and partner with them. So before I go to the interview with Naomi, you are going to get to see them in action on this clip. Enjoy and connect with them. They're fabulous. Right now, we have Naomi Nussbaum, and she is the executive director of One Family. And it's so wonderful to have you with us today. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us about that video. I mean, obviously, we feel great after seeing it, but tell us what that's all about.
Okay, so One Family provides terror victims with emotional, financial, and legal support. Under emotional support, we have many different types of emotional healing, right? And you just saw a really fun kind of healing. And that's the whole point of it, right? We want to add some joy, and we want to add a whole lot of love and resilience and toughness. So I don't know if you caught them, punching and warming up and cold baths, cold plunges, and learning the new skill of surfing. We're giving physical challenges. There was yoga and mindfulness so that we rein in our minds and focus on the positive. The people in that video tragically lost both parents to an act of terror, most of them. And One Family has been around for 24 years. So we have helped children who have turned into young adults and adults who are now married and have their own families. And yet they still feel like orphans. One, because they don't have a role model. They don't know, even if they're parents, it's like, well, they don't remember how their parents did things, or they can't ask a question. So the family that they formed with all the other orphans in the orphans division, that's their family. And the Bellsbergs are intimately involved. They've grown up together, and we're never going to stop helping them, right? The concept that an orphan ends at age 18 because they age out of programming doesn't hold up psychologically. So psychologically, we are there for orphans no matter how old they are. And in this video, you also saw younger children who might be newer orphans who are being welcomed in by the older orphans. And they are the perfect combination because the older orphans have been through the system and know what it's like to grow up without their parents and the government challenges that they have to deal with. So they're there for each other. And we teach them all. There's therapists in all the shots, breathing coaches, mindfulness coaches, physical challenge coaches, teaching tools of resilience. And when they can feel resilient on the beach or surfing or in a bucket of ice, they take that new skill into the rest of their life, to something that might be more challenging. So that's a great way to heal.
Wow. Naomi, what a ministry. I just, as you're talking, I just think about all the mandates in the Torah that are given for orphans and for those that are the motherless and the fatherless, and the promises of God, that he will never leave them or forsake them, that he will literally take them up. And then I think of the book of James that says that pure and undefiled religion is caring for the orphans and the widows. And that is something that this organization has taken the responsibility to do. And it's beautiful. And I appreciate it. And I didn't know you all existed. That's the joy of my job, is I get to find out about these beautiful, spiritual, God-centered organizations. And then even you left a very long career in with special needs children to work in this organization and to bring your expertise and your love and your mother's heart, and wow.
It's very meaningful. The Bellsbergs who started this organization just have the purest hearts. Which is why you've never heard of us. They never spent a penny on anything other than the victims. There was no marketing. There was no, they're just solely focused on helping people who didn't have the help that they needed. And they realized that more than 24 years ago, on the day of the infamous Sbarro bombing, which was the deadliest terror attack at that time, it happened on one of their daughter's bat mitzvah day, right? The day of her 12th birthday was that bombing. And they said, we are devastated, just like the rest of the nation. We cannot celebrate. And they took that money that was meant for the big party, and they had their daughter go and visit the Shiva homes and the survivors, the terror victims with wounds in the hospital. And she went around. They got to know everybody and see how they could help. And then 2 weeks later, a bus was blown up. And they realized that nobody was looking after terror victims in Israel at that time. And these people needed help much more than was being given from the government. They stepped in, they stepped up, they opened this nonprofit, and it's been their life's work ever since.
Wow.
Heart and soul. So it is a humbling honor and privilege to work for them. It's changed my life. There's nothing more meaningful.
I want to encourage anyone watching that there's many other videos and much more information. You can go to onefamilyfundus.org. It's right there on your screen. And you can find out even more how you can give, partner, and be a part of this wonderful organization. Naomi, I want us to shift a little bit. When they started this organization, the catchwords trauma, re-traumatized, PTSD were not very common. I mean, there was tragedy and there was horrible things that's happened since, the beginning of time.
Yes.
But now we have been confronted with terror attacks. It just seems like nonstop. In the last 6 years, what we have seen happen on October 7th is beyond description and unimaginable. And we are still suffering and hurting because of the current hostage situation and how that's playing out. And it's come to U.S. soil, which of course it has, when you have open borders and woke agendas, then these things happen. And so my question to you is, how is one family helping these victims that terrorists are being released, 50 terrorists for one female or one child or one soldier, and these are people who have been convicted of murder of 43 people, of horrible crimes, and serving life sentences.
Yeah.
That has got to just open so many wounds. How are you responding? What can we do? That was a loaded question.
Yes, there were many different pieces. So the first part, October 7th, right? In the 23 years of service that we had leading up to October 7th, almost the same amount in those 23 years were killed in a day. Very similar. So we have to triple or quadruple our services to we have to expand that much to help the people, the amount of people who need help right now. And to your point that PTSD is not so well known or understood, and it's only in the last few years that it's really being spoken about, 100% true. I'll tell you that Israel has had to rewrite the book on PTSD and trauma since October 7th, because the nature of the brutality of the attacks is, unparalleled. It's like something from a textbook from caveman days. Like, it's not human.
It's barbaric.
Yes. So they've had to rewrite the book on terror and how to treat it, which thank God they are doing. And you also saw from the video that we were helping orphans who were children at the time, and now they're grown adults, and now there's another generation. So we're with people long term. So of course, one family has stood with so many of the victims who we help, who have had to go to court to prosecute the perpetrator in their crime in a democratic society like the way we do, right? There's a fair trial in Israel. So victims of attacks had to face the attacker or the murderer in person, in court, and recount what happened with all the feelings and the injuries and the trauma. And they spent hours, days, weeks, months with lawyers and in courtrooms, taking off work to do this, traveling to the court, getting there, and making this a priority in a democratic society where there's supposed to be justice.
Yeah.
So, apples and oranges. I would say every single Israeli and every single Jew is thrilled that the hostages are being released, and at the same time horrified that our democratic society and system of justice is crumbling right before our eyes. Right? There's no excuse for allowing murderers to walk away from their sentences and to walk free. And in many cases, they're going home very close to the victims that they hurt.
That's right.
Is causing absolute panic and trauma on top of trauma.
Yeah. You and I talked off camera that it's very difficult for us in the West, very insulated, very protected, or so we think, right? Only by God and God alone, not government, not military, really just by God. Although we appreciate everyone who's serving, right? We do so much.
Serve a very important role.
Right. But October 7th was a demonstration that when evil wants to prevail and plots and plans for years and gets the resources gathered and has a strategy, it can happen.
Yes.
And
just interrupt you for 1 second. I'm so sorry. No. Sinwar was in jail as a convicted terrorist, and he was released. And while he was in jail, he was treated very well. He was given excellent medical care. He was given an education, 3 meals a day. They have choice of chicken or meat. We treat our criminals really well. And Israeli taxpayer money goes towards treating their prisoners so well. He learned our system. He learned our language. He got out, and he planned October 7th.
Used it against you.
Yes. And the statistics will show that more than 50% of terrorists who are released in deals like this go back to murdering. So we can pray that that will not happen in this case. But if we're going to be a little bit more realistic, the statistics would say that we're in for some trouble. So I'm sorry I interrupted you with that.
Not at all. But Naomi, that goes along the same path, is how do Israelis, how do they reconcile that, yes, we want our hostages home and we'll do anything to get them home. I understand that. You do too. We're mothers. But at the same time, it is completely unjust and completely unconstitutional, wrong. And you live with both of these things happening at the same time. How do they press through this and be able to function as human beings? And of course, that's where I'm sure a lot of the trauma comes in.
Right. Yeah, because they have to be strong when they're feeling weak. They have no choice. It's their life on the line. To answer your question, the closest thing that I have ever seen is the way Israelis have their Remembrance Day juxtaposed with their Day of Independence. And it's a day of national mourning, crying over all of the soldiers and civilians who were lost in order to establish the state of Israel, and those who are murdered for being Israelis now, right? And then immediately after, the sun goes down and they stop crying and they start celebrating that they are alive. We have our own sovereign state, and they celebrate and they rejoice. I have never seen anything like that. I experienced it a few times myself, and I would say that that is the closest analogy that I have to what terror victims are going through right now in Israel, because we are all thrilled. Nobody wants these hostages being tortured, right? And we have read the doctor's reports. The hostages were starved and sexually tortured, held in tunnels without light, held in civilian homes, also held hostage on UN property.
Yeah. Unimaginable,
right? Where is the world voice there? So we don't want anybody being sexually tortured and starved to death. No. At the same time, releasing murderers and these terrorists so that they can cause more damage is horrifying. And like I said, we have victim after victim calling us having total breakdowns that their perpetrator is being released and they can't sleep. And somebody murdered my son and we testified and both of those murderers are getting out. Or someone stabbed me 19 times and I had to look at him in the face to put him behind bars. And now he's getting out. He knows my face. He knows where I live, right? And Israeli Jews who believe in life above anything are now wondering if they should consider having the death penalty so that we never get ourselves into this kind of situation again, something which is totally the opposite of what we believe in. But it's like, how do we find ourselves in this situation and how do we prevent it from ever happening again?
It is an enigma and it is so hard. And I just want to take a second to say to my viewers, Come Home viewers, CTN partners, this is why we have to pray. It's why God says to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It is why he literally says in Isaiah 62, he gives us permission to give him no rest until Jerusalem becomes a glory in all of the earth. And they're so in need of our prayers. And Naomi, that is why one family is critical, because some of these things are not going to be solved in 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months, or 5 years. What you do is you provide comfort, care, and support. You come alongside, you provide that safe place. Right. And even, I was reading about some of the coordinators, they act as bubbies, which is mothers. Yeah. And it's true. There's times that a hug, a shoulder to cry on, help, a listening ear, prayers are the greatest gift that you can give someone who's scared, in fear, and in pain.
Yeah, it's the concept that nobody should ever be alone, and we're like their family. We're in this together with them, and sometimes that kind of energy can just really change the outcome, to say, I hear you, I love you, I'm going to hold your hand, we're going to get through this together. And the journey of recovering from PTSD, you can't really do together. But if you believe that somebody's in it together with you, that makes all the difference, right? I can't do the healing for somebody else, but I can certainly sit next to them in a support group and hold their hand or put my arm around and say, you're not alone, sweetheart. I love you. I'm here with you. I'm going to be here with you. And we're going to do this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's so important. And it is true when you know that you're not the only one going through something. And, the power of community, which you all provide, this incredibly loving, supportive, comforting community. The power of community gives you a place where you feel like you can be vulnerable and heal. Start
Yes.
a healing journey. And God, Hashem, is an ever-present help, and He wants to heal us. But we always have to cooperate and let Him heal us.
Yes.
And you all you're creating that beloved environment where that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots of different types of emotional support. And I might believe in God, somebody else might not believe in God. We embrace everybody, no matter what their relationship is. But we provide all the spirituality that somebody might want. We provide psychological support. We provide group, therapeutic group support where people have each other. We provide retreats. There's financial support. We have clubs like art therapy and phototherapy and hydrotherapy or deep tissue massage, anything that people want, right? So people can find what heals them most. And that's how we let it in. And we slowly add more and more opportunities for joy and love, and hopefully that spark that will bring them back to life, right? To say, I am strong enough to overcome this pain and create a beautiful life. Even though this terror attack happened, and I can't go back before, but I can shape the future to a certain extent, right?
Naomi, tell me about, do you have about roughly how many people you've served, how many families you help, what you do on a weekly basis? Do you have any of those numbers? I know it's probably on the website.
Yeah, I mean, we've helped more than 12,000 families. We want to help between 4,000 and 8,000 new families.
Yeah.
I would say, if 2,000 lives have been lost since October 7th, every single one of those murdered souls has a mother, a father, maybe some siblings, maybe a spouse, maybe some children, right? There could be anywhere between 5 and 10 or 20,000 people who are sitting Shiva just this year alone, which is horrifying. We want to help as many of them as we can. The more resources we have, the more partnerships, the more people who want to join this family, the more victims we'll be able to help.
Yeah. For those who don't know, tell what sitting Shiva is.
Oh, that is the Jewish ritual for how we mourn for somebody who is lost, right? So when I'm saying that there could be 20,000 people sitting Shiva, that is the first degree relatives of somebody who passes away. And I'm specifically referring to the people who were murdered on October 7th or since then, right? So there's a disproportionate number within the population of Israel of people who are sitting Shiva or mourning their loved one this year.
And it's a 7-day grieving period, right?
Okay, so there's stages. Yes, yeah. Right after we bury the person, there's a 7-day period of mourning where the first degree relatives don't leave the house and they sit and receive guests and they tell wonderful stories about the person's life. Then there's a 30-day period since the burial, and then there's a 1-year period, right? And after a year, we usually put the headstone on the grave and we mark the end of the year, and then we're ready to continue. So many people are going through that. So we're creating more groups for those people. And we're also acknowledging people who are not first degree relatives who are also mourning. For example, it's not the natural order of things for grandparents to be sitting Shiva for grandchildren. Right. That's not a thing, right? They're second degree relatives. Right. And yet how can that not be allowed, right? So we have support groups now for grandparents who have lost a child in the Army, or grandparents whose daughter just became a widow because she lost her husband. And how do you help your daughter, who now has to raise the children on her own and lost the love of her life, and they're grieving at the same time. We have new divisions for sisters-in-law who are often helping the people who are sitting Shiva, and fiancés, right? There were many young women whose fiancé was murdered before they even made it to the wedding canopy. So those people aren't traditionally recognized with the first degree Shiva relatives, right? But that doesn't mean they're not mourning. And now they're so massive in number, we are creating new divisions to help these people overcome their pain.
Wow. Naomi, I could listen to you talk forever. I know there's so much, and I pray that people will get a heart for this and join you. And I just wanted to give you, just in this last minute, an opportunity to share what we can do to help, and then just to pray.
Beautiful. Please come to our website at onefamilyfundus.org, or send me an email, naomi@onefamilyfundus.org. I'll tell you everything. I would love to meet you. It would be great to have you as part of the family. I would say that donors of any religion from any country who get involved get so much meaning out of it and provide so much hope and support for Israeli terror victims. It's life-changing. So that's really important and very, very special and touching.
Well, I pray you'll get lots of response, and it's just been such an honor being with you today. And would you like to pray to close out the program?
Yes, let's pray, all of us together. I think we all need a blessing worldwide for safety and security, but I hope most importantly that the hostages are released alive and in good health immediately and return to their families. I hope that God blesses every single one of the terror victims with enough strength to heal themselves. And I hope that one family gets to go out of business because we are no longer needed very, very soon. And that blessing goes for everybody. I wish everybody the strength to heal themselves and to live the most fulfilled life. And I thank you for having us on. And the world needs more peace and love.
Amen. Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much, Naomi. And thank you for watching Come Home Today. I'm Jen Mallan. Get involved with this incredible ministry organization. I'll see you next time.